Afternoon, ladies and gents. Just wanted to do a quick video on my Snowcaster rebuild for the Case 446. This is something that I get a lot of questions about, not necessarily on YouTube, but just from people I know in forums, groups that other people are looking to do the same thing. So I just want to do a quick overview of what I did, how I did it, and the parts that I used to get it done. When this was all said and done, I want to say I spent less than $150 on doing it, and it could probably be done cheaper too if you bought lower quality parts. But this turned out better than I expected, to be honest with you. So for the price that I have into this machine altogether, I'm extremely happy with it and very happy with the way that it works. I wouldn't be able to handle my snow removal without it. That being said, let's take a look at it. So when I first did this, I completely tore it apart, all the way down to just bare parts and pieces, which isn't actually too difficult, but the thing that most people struggle with is getting this old jack shaft off. And if you ask me, my opinion, the best thing to do is just cut it off. More often than not, if you are needing a rebuild, this jack shaft is junk anyway, and there's really no point in keeping it. Especially since you can build a brand new one yourself. And that's exactly what I did, was build a brand new one myself. Everything that I used here, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 things, I picked up at Tractor Supply Company. The base for this jack shaft build is just 3/4 inch bar stock that I picked up from Tractor Supply. I think it came in like a 48-inch length. You can get enough out of one piece there to do 2 shafts. I used it for something else. I don't remember what I used it on. But anyway, 3/4 inch bar stock, and that's the base for it. I don't know the length off the top of my head. I want to say it's somewhere right around 30 inches, 29 or something like that. But just measure your old one before you cut it out, if you do cut it. So what I did, again, just cut a new piece of 3/4 inch bar stock to the same length as the old jack shaft. Started with that. I'm not going to be able to get a great shot of it here, but I did buy a brand new drive sprocket for the end of the shaft. This I picked up off of Amazon. I believe it's a Titan sprocket. This is a 16 tooth. If my memory serves me correctly, that's 1 tooth smaller than the original sprocket. I think the original one was a 17. I could be wrong about that. Most people go up to a 19 because it spins the auger a bit faster and you can throw snow further. I get a lot of deep and wet heavy snow where I'm at here, so I went down a tooth to try and maintain some torque. Because my tractor has been engine swapped. Someone took an 18 horsepower V-twin Vanguard and replaced the original 16 horsepower opposed twin. From what I understand, these V-twins don't have quite as much torque as the old opposed twins do, so that's why I decided to go down a tooth. And I don't have any complaints. It's working just fine. I can throw snow probably 20-25 feet, no problem, which for me is plenty far. So again, anyway, I bought that sprocket off of Amazon. I want to say it was like $12, something like that. Fairly cheap. It did have a keyway cut in it, and then it also has 2 set screws at 90-degree angles to each other. I did not elect to use the key in the keyway because I don't have any way of really cutting a keyway. I guess I could have used a grinder, but I wasn't 100% confident in my abilities to do that. And I didn't really want to weld it on there either because I'd like to take this apart if I want to take it apart. So all I did was I put the sprocket on the end of the shaft, tightened down the set screws just enough to make a mark on the shaft where they bite the shaft, pulled the sprocket back off, and then drilled some small indents into the shaft where the set screws meet the shaft, just to add a little bit of extra stability there. So then I marked where the sprocket was on the shaft, and then after I drilled those holes, slid the sprocket back on there, tightened down the set screws so they were in those indents. I used Loctite, and then I also ran down a second set screw on top of the first set screw, and it has not moved a millimeter since I put it on there. It's been 100% stable. And I actually used the same method for this driven pulley here as well. You can see the set screws there, both at 90 degrees to each other. And I did the same thing, just drilled some indents into the shaft and then ran down the set screw as tight as I could and then put another one down on top of it using Loctite both times. Again, neither one of them has budged since I put it on there, and I've been using this for a good 2 months now. I think, since we're looking at it there, that pulley, again, I bought that off Amazon. I think it's a 6-inch or 6.5 inch pulley with obviously a 3/4 inch bore, and it can fit a 1/2 inch to a 5/8 belt, and I'm running a 5/8 belt that I picked up from Tractor Supply. Even though this tractor was engine swapped, whoever did it did a good job. They maintained the original crank position and PTO pulley position, so I can use the same belt that's recommended for the original engine. And I believe, let me look at it here, I might be able to make out the number on it yet. Not quite. But anyway, this is an 81-inch belt. That's 5/8 by 81. And I picked this up from Tractor Supply as well. I think it was $25. It's a blue belt, the Kevlar belt. It's lasted, I mean, I've had it for, well, probably about 2 months now. And I've used it a handful of times, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 times. You know, I mean, it's a belt. It works fine. It's cheap enough. I know some people don't like to spend more than $5 on a belt, but it's like, come on. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So moving on to the jack shaft bearings here, I think these are called, I don't remember exactly what they're called, but I do have the part number here and a picture on my phone. I'll list all of the parts that I used for this at the end of the video too. I took pictures of them all when I was shopping around on Tractor Supply, so I'll add those in there, and hopefully that'll help you guys out a little bit. But it's a 3/4 inch bore bearing with an eccentric locking ring. That's what this is. Prevents the shaft from sliding back and forth in and out while it's rotating within the bearing. And there's 2 of those, one on the inside there and then one on the outside here as well. They're the same bearing. I think I paid $15 a piece for them. Just a quick note there. When I first tried to engage the PTO, those bearings were so stiff that it was too much for the tractor to handle, and I would flip on the PTO and it would just bog the tractor down and the engine would die. So what I had to do And funny thing here, I'm not using the tension spring that belongs on the tensioning arm. I'm just wrapped a bungee cord around there, and that's working great. So if anyone's wondering whether or not they actually need that tensioning spring, you don't need it. It's probably better to have it, but this works just fine too. I do plan on getting one eventually. I was just kind of, you know, I finished this up like, I think 3 days after we had a big snowstorm. And I had used a plow on the front of this tractor, and I was, you know, really just trying to clean up the mess. And it was a nasty snowstorm. But I'm getting off track here again. But anyway, I was just trying to get by with doing what worked, and that bungee cord did work just fine. I replaced the auger bearings themselves as well. For those of you wondering, that is an L84. That's, I don't know if it's just a number that designates the bearing as far as I know, but it has a hex bore in it. I believe it's an 11/16 hex bore, and it's an RX84. I ordered mine off of eBay. They're Chinese, so I don't know how long they're going to last, but they are 20 bucks a piece. I think there are some dealers here in Wisconsin as well as in Upper Michigan that have probably some better quality bearings. If you guys have not joined the group on Facebook, it's like Case Colt and Ingersoll. I can't remember exactly what it is, but if you just type in Case Colt and Ingersoll, that'll come up on Facebook. You can find that group, request to join it, and everybody in there is, you know, for the most part, extremely knowledgeable, and there's quite a few parts dealers in there too that stock OEM and replacement parts for these tractors and all their attachments. So the one thing that I did that's not 100% stock, or the only modification that I did, was cut the sidewall out of some tires. and then bolted it to the center of the auger here. This just helps, it helps throw snow further. It closes the gap between the auger and the back of the chute. So if you overlap the edge of the rubber, you can use, like I said, the sidewall of a tire or some old rubber belt. But if you overlap the edge of the auger with the piece of rubber, if it overhangs by about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, that's going to be perfect. You just want it just barely rubbing the back of the chute. You want to try and close as much of that gap as you can without actually having the touch, or without actually having the rubber touch the back of the chute, which isn't that easy, but it's easy enough to do. If I can do it, you guys can do it too. When I bought this auger, it did come with a new length of roller chain. I should say when I bought this Snowcaster and the whole tractor, everything together, it did come with a new length of roller chain, but that's 40 roller chain. And I believe, if I counted correctly, there are 37 links. Again, I could be wrong. I'll have to look. But I do believe it was 37. And then I also had to use 1/2 link and a master link. So 37.5 links, I think. Don't take my word for that. But anyway, if you're just looking for what you need, it's 40 roller chain. So really, I think that's it. So we covered the jack shaft. Like I said, the best way that I think that you can remove that is to really just cut it out. Some people get lucky and they are able to remove theirs in one piece. I had to cut my drive pulley off. Actually, how did I do that? I think I was able to pound the shaft out of this outside bearing, and then anyway, I was able to get it out somehow, but the amount of time it took me was just ridiculous, and since I ended up making a new one anyway, I think, in my opinion, you're just better off cutting it out. No point in wasting the time, unless you really want to try and reuse the original shaft. So, like I said, covered the jack shaft there, we covered the drive pulley, covered the belt, and we covered the auger bearings, and the tire or rubber modification to the center of the auger to throw further. Really, that's about it. All in all, these are pretty simple machines, but they work fantastic, and the next time it snows, I'll be sure to set up the camera and try and get some footage of it. Hopefully that answers some questions. If I missed anything, or if you come up with any other questions, please leave a comment, and I will answer it as I have time. Thanks for watching, guys.